Hi, and welcome to another Watch Geek video. Today I'll be doing a review and a tutorial of a Casio GW-S5600, which I did an unboxing of a couple of weeks ago. But first I wanted to mention that, as usual with my videos, in the description you will find a table of content with time codes, so you can jump to specific parts of the video or functions of the watch. Now, this watch was introduced in June 2010, and it was initially a limited run of 1,500 pieces, but luckily Casio decided to keep producing them in small batches, so it's still readily available. Now, if they left it at the initial 1,500 pieces, I think the price of these would have been way up there, but they would be hard to get. Now, a month later, Casio also released a negative display variant, the GW-S5600B, which is much harder to find. Now, when it comes to the specs, this watch wears smaller and slimmer than regular squares, as it's slightly shorter lug to lug and also thinner, especially compared to a screwback square like my GW-5000. But it is wider, and despite being smaller, please note that the strap on this model is actually longer than usual, so if you have a really small wrist, you might end up having a piece sticking out. Now, the best part of this watch, at least to me, has to be the screen. Not only the high contrast, but also the way numbers are really close to the crystal, unlike usual squares like mine, where the screen is deep inside the watch. Now, this layout makes the screen really pop. And another great feature is that this model doesn't have a recessed adjust button, but all the buttons are of proper size, which not only makes it easier to use, but also makes it look more symmetrical. Now, talking of symmetry, this layout of the screen graphics is also my favorite, as it's symmetrical, unlike the GW-M5610, which basically uses the layout of the GW-5000, but instead of this legendary brick pattern, it has a solar cell. This, on the other hand, has the same layout as the GW-5000, but with a splash of red color, which makes it a lot more interesting. I especially love this honeycomb pattern on the outer part of the crystal. Now, all these combined make this the best looking square G-Shock, at least to me. When it comes to the functions, the watch uses the module 3159, which is the same module used on both the GW-5000 and GW-M5610, which means it's self-charging, self-adjusting, with coverage of all 6 towers in the world, has a world time function with 31 time zones and 48 cities, 5 alarms, a 24-hour stopwatch, and a 24-hour countdown timer. So pretty much everything you would expect or need on a G-Shock. Now, in the unboxing video, I said I find this to be one of the best square G-Shocks out there, which I will try to explain in this review. Now, I'm trying to come up with a way of explaining not only that, but also where in the square G-Shock lineup this fits and what its purpose is. I came to an idea to compare the square line of G-Shocks with Porsche 911 line of sports cars, because they're similar in a way and both have an iconic design that over time changed slightly, meaning it was more an evolution than revolution. So if you're into cars, the analogy will be even better and much more understanding. So if we look at it that way, the regular GW-5600, the basic one that you can get in Walmart, would be our regular 911 Carrera. So the cheapest way of getting a Porsche 911 that has everything you need and nothing you don't, with the already mentioned iconic design. However, let's say you're extremely successful and you want the best 911 money can buy. Now, to most people, the obvious answer would be the 911 Turbo. I mean, it's the most luxurious, one of the fastest, and one of the most powerful 911s. However, there is another road you can take when you wish for the best 911 money can buy. And this road is not for everyone, as it doesn't include luxury, but tries to give you the maximum of something else: pure performance and a race car driving experience. And this is the 911 GT2. Now, in the same way, if you want the best square money can buy, the obvious answer is the GW-5000, which is a very expensive piece with much more power than the regular square, as it has solar atomic module with a lot more functions, like I mentioned earlier, just like a Turbo has a lot more horsepower than the regular 911. And you get the luxury of a DLC-coated stainless steel case and extra soft rubber strap. So, as luxurious and as powerful as you can get, which makes the GW-5000 the 911 Turbo of the square G-Shock world. But here too you have another road, the GW-M5610. Now, the GW-M5610 has the same engine as the GW-5000, only in a lighter, less luxurious package. Now, if we look at the Porsche analogy, this would be the 911 GT2, which also has the same engine as the Turbo, but in a lighter body without the added luxury. Now you'll ask yourself then, what is the GW-S5600? Well, the GW-S5600 is actually a GW-M5610 with more advanced materials to make it even lighter and longer lasting. So instead of a simple resin strap, you get a carbon fiber strap, which makes it impossible to break from wear. Then all the stainless steel parts have been replaced with titanium to make it as light as possible. Now we're talking the case back, the buckle, the buttons, even the screws holding the case back. Now some people claim even the screws holding the bezel are made of titanium, but that is something I couldn't find official information on, so I really can't confirm. Now if we go back to our 911 analogy, the GW-S would basically be the GT2 RS, as the GT2 RS is a GT2 made even lighter by using, believe it or not, the same materials as the GW-S5600, if we ignore magnesium, which is not found on the watch. So the GW-S5600 and the GT2 RS both use carbon fiber and titanium to be as light as possible. Now, how's that for a similarity? And, like that was not enough, the first GT2 RS was also introduced in 2010 when this watch was first released. It's like they were made for each other. So, if you by any chance drive a GT2 RS, you just have to wear this watch. Now, today we take carbon fiber straps as a given on premium G-Shocks like Mudmasters, Gulfmasters, and others. But the road to implementing carbon fiber in resin straps was long and hard, and we can thank this model that we have them today, as it was the first model to develop this technology. Now, the initial idea behind this watch and its carbon fiber strap was to make the strap impossible to break from wear. So not only is the carbon fiber inserted into the band, but it's also looped around the spring bars and around the buckle as well. Also, the keeper, which is something many of us destroy, is made of carbon fiber to make it last forever. Now, this is why the watch was part of their series called RM, or Resist Material. And the funny thing is that Casio actually failed to develop the technology required to bond carbon fiber, which is a hard material by nature, with resin, which is very soft and pliable. So they partnered with Mizuno, that makes sports equipment and has a lot of experience in manufacturing carbon fiber. And after many problems in development, they finally succeeded, which is the reason why this model proudly shows its carbon fiber insert on the outer side of the strap, while today all G-Shocks have the carbon fiber visible only from the inner side of the strap or not visible at all. Now, another fun fact is that all the straps for this model were originally made by Mizuno and not Casio. Now, I don't know if that's still the case. Now, as you can see, the carbon fiber is used only on the strap and not on the bezel, which made some people disappointed, as the watch would look prettier if the bezel matched the strap. However, I personally love this decision because of the reason behind it. Now, a carbon fiber bezel was planned and actual prototypes were made, but after doing tests with it, it was deemed unnecessary by engineers as it did not benefit the watch in any functional way. In fact, it made it even worse, so it was dropped and this smoky transparent bezel was adopted. Now, I respect that decision, as putting a carbon fiber bezel knowing it's less functional would have been the equivalent of putting a fake exhaust or carbon fiber decals on a sports car, so just for the looks. And that is what I love about this watch. It's just so focused and so purpose-built that you get the feeling it was the engineers who made all the decisions, and they made the design and marketing department set this one out. So what about the titanium parts? Well, my theory is that someone came to the idea of making the watch as light as possible, probably to further accentuate the lightness carbon fiber is known for. Now, the initial goal was to make it under 50 grams, and at 47 grams they obviously achieved their goal, which makes this watch the lightest G-Shock ever made. Now, it literally feels like there's nothing on your wrist, like you're wearing a spider web that got caught on your wrist. So what exactly is the benefit of the lack of weight, apart from a comfortable wear as you have nothing dragging your wrist down? Well, just like the GT2 RS uses its lightness to be as fast as possible on a racetrack, in the same way, the GW-S5600 uses its lightness to be as shock resistant as possible, because added mass adds to the force of impact, so a lighter watch will have to handle smaller forces, making it even more shock resistant. Now, with this model, Casio made, like I said, the GT2 RS of the Square G-Shock line, and with it came the GT2 RS marketing problems. In other words, this is not a general public watch. It's a very niche product, just like the GT2 RS. You have to appreciate the tech it went into making this thing and the amazing lack of weight to justify paying a premium, as this costs almost as much as the GW-5000 and roughly 30 to 40% more than the GW-M5610. Now, to me personally, it's worth it, considering how special this watch is. I mean, the very fact they bothered to make it makes it special. To me, it was more an engineering exercise to see what they can do, and that's the reason I love it so much. Since the strap is pretty flashy for everyday wear, and because I want to keep it in pristine condition, but still want to wear the watch as it looks so good, I actually ordered a regular GW-M5610 strap and bezel, so I will replace them and put away the stock ones for safekeeping. So in future videos, you might see this watch with a slightly different look. Anyways, this pretty much completes the review, so let's jump into the tutorial. Okay, so as you can see, in the home screen, this watch will display the hours, the minutes, the seconds, the date, the month, the day of the week, whether the DST or daylight savings time is turned on or off. It's going to display whether the power save is turned on, and it's going to have this RCVD symbol if the last night's sync was successful. Also, in the bottom, it's got this status display with this one, the right one showing you L, M, or H, meaning the level of the battery. And this side here shows you whether the snooze alarm, the alarm, or the hourly chime are turned on. Now, when it comes to the level of the battery, you want to keep this watch at medium or high. Because if the battery drops down to low, the watch is going to shut down certain functions like the atomic time reception, and backlight. If the battery drops even below low, which is charge, it's going to start blinking here, charge. The watch is going to stop all the functions except basic timekeeping. So you won't be able to do anything with the watch even if you press the buttons. Now, while in the home screen, pressing the mode button is going to take you and cycle you through different functions. So as you can see, until you go back to the home time, and the home time has a different beep than all the other functions. Now, pressing the light button is going to activate the backlight, and as you can see, this one uses the proper EL backlight, not those LEDs. Also, in the home screen, pressing and holding the light button for more than 3 seconds is going to turn on the automatic illumination. As you can see, you have this little AEL symbol right here. What that means is this watch has an automatic light where if you put it level and tilt it to your face, it's going to light up. However, because it's a solar powered watch, it knows when it's in the dark, so it's not going to use it unnecessarily, like if there's enough light. Also, because of this, once you turn this thing on, it will stay on indefinitely, unlike regular battery powered G-Shocks and Casio watches where they turn this function off after 6 hours. Now, as you can see, the watch will not do anything. However, if we turn off the light and repeat the process, it's going to light up the display. So, pretty cool feature. Okay, pressing this button in the home screen is going to take you to the get screen. Now, the get screen is used to check the last time when the watch was successfully synced. Now, as you can see, it tells me that it was synced at 21st of October at 3:03 in the morning, meaning last night. Now, also while in this screen, or while in the home screen, you can also be in the home screen, pressing and holding this button is going to activate the manual reception, because like I said, this watch is going to try to receive automatic time data up to 6 times in the night. However, you can also initiate a manual reception by pressing and holding this button. Now, like I said, you can be in the get screen or you don't have to. Just holding this for 3 seconds is going to initiate the reception. Now, as soon as the watch catches the signal, it's going to right here L1, 2, or 3 depending on the signal strength. The higher the number, the better the signal strength. Now, this sync can take up to 10 minutes, and if you live like I do on the edge of the reception during the daytime, most likely the watch is going to fail. During the night, it's going to sync without any problems. Now, to cancel this reception, you just press this button again. Now, please note that if the sync is successful, you're going to have this RCVD written here. If it fails, if we let the watch try to sync and if it fails, this is going to disappear. Also, if you manually change the time or time zone, this symbol is also going to disappear right here, because this, in a way, is a guarantee where the watch tells you that it knows it's within the second accurate to the atomic clock. So if you mess up the time manually, it cannot guarantee that it's accurate, so it's going to remove this. Okay, another thing that you can do in the get screen is turn off the automatic time reception. So let's say if you live in a time zone where you don't have the signal, or if you travel to a time zone where you don't have the signal of the towers, you want to turn this thing off, because it's just going to stress the battery unnecessarily in the night, because it won't be able to catch the signal. So to turn it off, you press and hold the adjust button, and the watch, sorry, I just pressed it twice, and the watch is going to ask you whether you want to turn it on or off, and you do it with the lower button. You can toggle it on or you can toggle it off. We'll leave it at on. Pressing the adjust again returns back to the rec screen. Now to go back to the home screen, don't press the mode button, as it's going to jump to the alarm to the next mode, but just press this lower button again and you're back into the home screen. Now, this watch can set its time to 3 ways. One is the automatic time reception, where it's going to catch the time in the night. The second one is the manual reception that I just showed you right now. And the third one is the manual time adjustment. Now, you have to do this manual time adjustment for the first time, because you have to tell the watch what time zone you're in. Now, to adjust everything on this watch, while in the home screen, press and hold the adjust button, and the watch is going to enter the adjusting mode. Now, while in this adjusting mode, the mode button is going to cycle you through different things to adjust, and these 2 buttons are going to increase or decrease the values. And if you have something to toggle on or off, you just use the lower button. Now, the first thing that the watch is going to ask you is your time zone. So you have to select, you can go east or west with these 2 buttons, and you have to select this accurately, because the world time function calculates its time based on this. So if you mess this thing up, the world time function is not going to work properly. Also, the watch, depending on the time zone you select here, the watch is going to tune its receiver to the correct tower. So if you mess this thing up, even though you live within the tower reach, if you messed up the time zone, the watch is going to be synced to another tower, so you won't be able to catch the signal. So this is important to do correctly. Now, pressing the mode button takes us to the DST setting, or daylight savings time, summertime. So if you live in an area where you have the signal and you use the DST, you leave it at auto, and the watch is going to automatically switch between summertime and wintertime. However, if you live within the coverage, signal coverage, but your time zone does not observe daylight savings time, using the lower button, you select off, because that way the watch is not going to reset the time every night. Otherwise, in the morning you would wake up and your watch would be off by 1 hour. Or if you live in an area where you're outside of the coverage of the towers, you can toggle it on or off again with this lower button, and it just keeps cycling. So off, on, auto, off, on, auto. We'll leave it at auto because I do live within the reach, and we also observe the daylight savings time. Now, pressing the mode button takes you to the 12 and 24-hour selection. So here, by toggling with the lower button, you choose whether you want to see the military time or AM PM time, like this. I prefer military, so I'll just return it to 24. Now, pressing the mode button again takes you to the seconds. Now, if you reset the seconds now, after 30 seconds with the lower button, the seconds are going to reset, and as you can see, the minutes just jumped by 1 up, so from 31 to 32. However, if you reset the seconds up to 30 seconds, so up to 29, the seconds are going to reset, but the minutes are going to stay the same. So let's just try it. There, as you can see, the seconds went to 0, but the minutes stayed at 32. Now, pressing the mode button again takes you to the hours. Now, the hours, the minutes, the month, and date are all changed with these 2 buttons. So you can go up or down, and the watch also has a speed scrolling function, meaning that if you press and hold the button, it's going to scroll fast through the numbers. Now, after you select the desired hours, pressing the mode buttons takes you to the minutes, again, up, down, and speed scrolling. Pressing the mode button again, it asks you for the year. So again, you can go down, up, and speed scrolling. Then the next one is the the month. Again, up, down, speed scrolling. Pressing the mode again asks you for the date. Again, up, down, speed scrolling. And the day of the week is calculated automatically. Now, pressing the mode button again the watch is going to ask you for the power save function, whether you want it on or off. You toggle it with the lower button, so you can put it to off, or if you put it to on, in the home screen you will have this little PS on the screen. Now what this power save function does is it turns off the screen in the night between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. of the next morning. However, the watch still catches the signal and updates the time. And if in the morning the watch is still in the dark, it's just gonna keep the screen off until you pick it up, or until it sees the light. I mean, it senses the light. Okay, pressing the mode button again cycles you back to the home time selection. Now, as you can see, this watch, unlike other G-Shocks and Casio watches I review, does not have the selection of the light duration, and this is the only bad thing that I noticed about this watch, meaning that you cannot select whether the backlight is going to be on for a second and a half or 3 seconds like usually on Casio watches. No, this one only offers a second and a half. So it only has the shorter version of the light, which is something I don't like. I like my backlight to be as long as possible. So that's the only bad thing about this watch. Anyways, this cycles you back, so now if you missed anything or you want to change something differently, you just cycle with the mode button. When you adjust everything, you press the adjust button, and the watch just completed the adjusting. And the last thing that we can toggle on or off from the home screen is the mute function. If you might have noticed, the mute function is not toggled on or off in the adjusting screen like on many other Casio and G-Shock watches, but for some reason Casio decided to do it differently on this watch. So to turn on the mute function, while in the home screen, you press and hold the mode button for more than 3 seconds, and you ignore the fact that the watch is going to jump into the alarm, and just keep the button pressed until the watch beeps and a little musical note that's been crossed out shows up here. So let's do it. So press and hold, and there, the watch just muted by putting this musical note here. So now when you operate the buttons, as you can see, the watch doesn't make any sound. Now to turn off the mute function and to resume normal operation, you repeat the process. So while in the home screen, you press and hold the mode button for more than 3 seconds. And there, the watch just beeped and removed the mute indicator. So now, as you can hear, when we operate the buttons, the watch beeps. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the home screen. Okay, so the next function is the world time function. Now in the world time, you can only go one way. You can only go due east by pressing the lower button, like this. Because pressing the upper button is not going to take you to west, but it's going to activate the backlight. Now this is a shame, but at least the watch offers the return to UTC. By pressing these two buttons simultaneously, it's going to jump back to the UTC. So if you miss your time zone, you don't have to go all the way around the globe. By pressing these two buttons, it takes you to the UTC, and then you move on from there. Another thing that you can do in the world time is you can turn on the DST for each individual time zone. So pressing and holding the adjust button is going to toggle the DST for that time zone on or off. There, as you can see, the DST just turned off and the time changed accordingly. And that's pretty much it. Now moving on, the next function is the alarm function. Now in the alarm function, by pressing the lower button, you can toggle through different alarms. So this watch, like I said, has 5 alarms with one being a snooze alarm, and it also has an hourly chime. Now to turn each of these alarms on or off, you just press the adjust button. And as soon as you turn on any of the alarms, you're going to have this little ALM symbol right here. And as you can see, the alarm 2 has just been turned on. Now if you go to the snooze alarm and turn that thing on, as long as if you turn that thing on, you're going to have the SNZ symbol here as well as the ALM symbol. And if you turn on the hourly chime by pressing the adjust button, you're going to have the SIG symbol on. Now the hourly chime means that the watch is going to beep each and every full hour. Also, you can adjust any of these alarms by pressing and holding the adjust button, and you adjust them just like you did with the time. So you have the hours, you can go up or down and speed scroll, and pressing the mode button, you can change the minutes. And you can then press the adjust button to exit the adjusting of the alarms. Now please note that even if the alarm is turned off, let's say alarm 1, as soon as you start adjusting the time of the alarm, it's automatically going to turn on. It's just so you know. Okay, moving on. the next function is the stopwatch. Like I said, this watch has a 24-hour stopwatch, and it's a standard Casio stopwatch, meaning that you can start it, you can stop it, you can reset it with the adjust button. You can also have the split time, so you can start it. Pressing the adjust button is going to freeze the screen, but the stopwatch keeps running in the background, so you write down this data, and when you want to unfreeze the screen, you press the adjust button again. And it has the first and second place, meaning that if you have two runners, when the first one goes through the finish line, you press the adjust button. When the second one goes through the finish line, you press the start stop button. And now you write down the time of the first runner. Pressing the time, the adjust button is going to write down, show you the time of the second runner, and pressing it again is going to reset the stopwatch. So pretty simple. Anyways, moving on. The next function is the countdown timer, and it's a 24-hour countdown timer, meaning that if you start it right now, when it's at 0, it's going to start from 23:59:59 and go downwards. Once it reaches 0, it's going to beep. Another thing that's a shame compared to the more traditional G-Shocks, like my GW-5000, is that in the timer, you don't have the current time displayed here, but the time that you set the timer for. So let's stop it and reset it. So the timer can also be set from 1 minute to 24 hours for any time, just like the alarm, just like the time. So you press and hold the adjust button, and the watch asks you what hours and what minutes you want to adjust. And now if you adjust it to, I don't know, let's say 5 minutes, and press the adjust button, this here is going to show you what the timer was set up for. So if you started, the timer is going to go down, but this screen is going to keep showing you what the timer was set for. And that's pretty much it. So you stop it, you reset it, and pressing the mode button takes you back to the home screen. Anyways, this pretty much completes the whole tutorial and review of this watch. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe. And until the next video, bye.